Have you ever felt, deep down, that something is wrong, but you can't put it into words? That despite your physical presence, there's an invisible emptiness eating away at your heart? Many relationships carry a painful secret. Silent emotional neglect. That absence which gradually destroys your self-esteem and makes you feel alone, even when you're together. And what's worse? Few people talk about it openly, as if it were taboo. But what if I told you that recognizing these signs is the first step to taking back control of your emotional life and freeing yourself from emotional neediness? Get ready to find out how to identify the silent signs that may be undermining your relationship, and more importantly, how you can regain your emotional security before it's too late. Often, the feeling of being emotionally neglected begins when your words and feelings simply aren't really heard. It's as if you're speaking into a void, without the other person really connecting with your feelings. This lack of true listening creates an emotional invisibility that erodes trust and prevents you from opening up freely, leaving a void that is difficult to fill. Have you ever noticed how, when you try to share something important, the other person's response is superficial or indifferent? It's as if your emotions are minimized, treated as exaggerations or frills. This happens in many neglectful relationships and is a silent sign that the emotional connection is being compromised. Recognizing this dynamic is the first step to identifying that something is wrong and deserves attention. For those who experience this, a practical exercise can help. Try to express your emotions to yourself, writing in a diary or speaking out loud. This strengthens self-esteem and creates a space where you feel validated, even if your partner is not emotionally available. From there, you'll be able to better understand the importance of demanding this genuine listening and prepare yourself to deal with the lack of it, which brings us to the question of taking an interest in your needs. When your partner shows little or no genuine interest in your emotional needs, an invisible distance begins to form. It's that feeling that your dreams, fears, and desires don't really matter, as if your soul were invisible to the person who should be by your side. This lack of care creates a silent rift that weakens the connection and causes deep loneliness within the relationship. Imagine sharing a fear or a joy and receiving an empty silence or an uninterested comment. This isn't just an oversight. It's a clear sign of emotional neglect, which erodes self-esteem and creates an emotional lack that is almost invisible to outsiders. A healthy relationship requires that both parties take an interest in each other's emotional world, cultivating fertile ground for intimacy. To combat this silent distancing, a practical tip is to communicate your needs clearly and gently, using "I feel" and "I need." If the answer remains empty, it's time to look inwards and question whether this relationship is a safe space for your emotional growth, opening the way to perceive the feeling of loneliness, even in the physical presence of the other. It's hard to bear the feeling of being close to someone and at the same time feeling alone. This paradox, being physically close but emotionally isolated, is a classic sign of emotional neglect. Physical presence without deep connection creates a loneliness that hurts without the need for physical distance, because emotional abandonment hurts precisely because of the empty closeness. This feeling can appear in everyday life in small gestures, sharing the same space, but without exchanging. Glances without real conversation, without that touch that speaks more than words. Often the person wonders, why do I feel so alone if she is here? It's the emotional absence that erodes emotional security and creates a void that no one else fills. A practical way of dealing with this is to identify moments when you feel really connected and try to strengthen them. It could be a brief moment of sincere dialogue, a real hug, or a "how do you feel?" that shows genuine interest. When these experiences are rare or non-existent, it's essential to reflect on the quality of the relationship and your own emotional need, which needs to be addressed. When your feelings are ignored, disqualified, or even ridiculed, something very profound happens. Your self-esteem begins to falter. This lack of validation creates fertile ground for insecurities that spread to other areas of your life, making you doubt your own worth. It's as if the emotional mirror you seek is always distorted, reflecting an image that doesn't correspond to your truth. Imagine telling someone something that touched you deeply, and them responding with indifference or criticism. It may seem small, but the impact is enormous. Learning to recognize when this happens is a crucial step towards taking care of yourself. A practical exercise is to validate your own feelings before seeking validation from outside. Acknowledge for yourself what you feel, and make space for these emotions, without judgment. This internal movement strengthens your self-esteem and prepares you to set healthy boundaries. After all, in a relationship where the lack of emotional connection reigns supreme, validating yourself is an act of courage and an essential step towards freeing yourself from the emotional neediness that hurts so much. When conversations become superficial and avoid touching on what really matters, a silent void emerges that erodes emotional intimacy. Deep dialogue requires vulnerability and genuine interest, and the absence of these elements indicates a blockage that prevents the relationship from growing. This difficulty in truly connecting can be the tip of the iceberg of neglect in relationships. For those who experience this, trying to start conversations that really matter can seem risky, almost like walking the tightrope of rejection. A practical strategy is to create safe spaces to express your emotions. Whether through a planned conversation, writing down your feelings, or even seeking external support to strengthen yourself emotionally. Small steps like this already begin to undo the silence that keeps you from what you deserve. When these conversations become a rarity, the feeling of emotional abandonment only increases, deepening the loneliness in the relationship. It's at this point that the perception of a lack of emotional connection becomes clear, setting the stage for recognizing other silent signs that have often gone unnoticed. Now that you know these silent signs of emotional neglect, how about reflecting? Have you allowed a lack of emotional connection to erode your self-esteem and inner peace? Is it time to put an end to toxic relationships and invest in your self-knowledge and emotional liberation? The power to change is in your hands, and only you can choose your true happiness. Are you ready to say enough to emotional absence and start building relationships that truly value you? Think. What actions can you take today to move away from loneliness in your relationship and seek the care you deserve? Don't wait for the other person to change, because the first step towards transformation is yours. If you want to continue learning about how to identify and overcome emotional neglect, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Your journey towards healthy relationships and solid self-esteem starts now.